Now, presenting someone who doesn't just tell stories, she lives them. An actor, a storyteller, and someone who exactly knows how to keep us hooked from start to finish.
From screen to stage, she brings honesty, charm, and just the right amount of wit to everything she does. And trust me, this one story you'll want to stay fully tuned in for. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Shruthi Seth.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shruthi Seth, and I'm very glad and honored to be here on this stage today. I'm going to try and make this quick because we're a little pressed for time. In 1999, I watched a film which changed the way I viewed life. While everything about that seminal film was life-altering for me, there were three words in particular that left an indelible mark on my subconscious. That film was The Matrix, and the three words were free your mind. And as you can see, I literally wear it on myself. Back then, I was in my early 20s, and I didn't quite understand what those three words meant in their true sense. But they stayed with me like a thorn in my side, or I would say a guiding light that took me down many paths in my quest to figure out their true meaning. And here's how I've made sense of it through the years. So all of us are sort of handed a life plan, a roadmap through life that we must follow. Study, work, earn, save, invest, fall in love, maybe get married, perhaps have children. And somewhere in all of this, we're supposed to find happiness and contentment. And since we see this around us from early years when we're growing up, we take that blueprint and follow it without any questions. As did I. I checked all the boxes, got a job, made money, got famous, made a career, secured some sort of future, fell in love, had a beautiful baby girl, and I must admit, I've been very happy and fairly content. But somehow, both those things have been fleeting and haven't stayed for as long as they were promised. Because along with that blueprint that we get handed over, we also get handed over a silent mounting pressure from society, which is to constantly want more, do more, have more, so that we may be able to stay happy for longer. But unfortunately, like I said, it doesn't quite hold up. And luckily for me, because I watched The Matrix multiple times through the years, and every time I watched it, these three words, free your mind, would always set off an internal alarm. And I still was grappling with trying to understand what they meant. And then in 2020, when the world went into lockdown, I chanced upon something that felt like it may bring me closer to the answer. It was an online course from Yale University's Happiness Lab called The Science of Well-Being. And what I learned from that, amongst other things, was something really interesting called hedonistic adaptation. It is basically the ability of our brains to adapt to pleasure. And turns out that the brain does it quite rapidly. For example, you desire a car. You've identified this perfect model, this beautiful car that you really, really want, and you really want to drive it around and feel super cool while you're in it. And somehow you work, you earn, you save, you invest, and eventually you are able to buy that car. And you feel so elated and happy and joyful. And then you get the car and you drive in that car and you take care of it. And it's this shiny little toy that you have that you can show off to people to feel good about yourself and even to yourself. And you look after that car, you make sure it doesn't get scratched, and just the general joy of getting something that you truly wanted and you worked hard to get. But after a few weeks, someone scratches your car. You're like, okay. Then someone bumps your car, you dent your car, and in a month's time, it's just another car. And suddenly, you open the internet or the newspaper and you see an advertisement for a new car model. And you're like, wow, now that's the car I want. And then the cycle continues. And this is what happens with almost everything in our life. We stay on a treadmill chasing, because somewhere we mistake pleasure for happiness. And that is exactly what the consumer industry wants us to keep believing, so that we keep buying more and more things, thinking that by doing so, we will find happiness. But here's the thing. Happiness, unlike pleasure, is something intrinsic. It doesn't need an external source. If I had time, I would have tried a little experiment with all of you, but now you're just going to have to trust me. Well, when I found out about hedonistic adaptation, I was like, voila, this is the first thing that I have understood about my mind. And then that kind of whet my appetite, and I wanted to know myself more deeply. So I followed it up with multiple courses, from Buddhist psychology to arts-based therapy to emotional intelligence to mindfulness meditation and eventually choice theory reality therapy. And today I stand before you as a qualified behavioral and transformational coach. And here's what I've learned over the last 6 years through these multiple courses that I will share with you over the next few minutes. The biggest imprisoner of the mind is the ego. And according to Buddhist psychology, the ego and our attachment to it is one of the primary reasons for all human suffering. And when I say suffering, I don't exactly mean suffering as we understand it, but it's basically a feeling of unease, of not being able to find that one thing that we all crave so much, which is eternal happiness. And it is because the ego imprisons the mind and it tells you lies because it wants you to believe everything is good about you. It is what builds us as the person that we are, our place in the larger scheme of things. And the most beautiful thing about the ego is that it will tell you so many lies and build so many narratives so that you always get to play victim to all your circumstances. So you always end up saying, well, I'm fine, but only if this person would just do this much, everything would be fine. I'm fine, but this situation is bad. You're constantly projecting outwards because the ego doesn't like us to be uncomfortable. And sadly, the truth is uncomfortable. But it is the only thing that truly sets us free. Then there's emotional intelligence, another way that the mind remains captive. Because we mistake all our feelings as ourselves. But you're not sad. You're not angry. You're feeling angry. You're feeling sad. And when you say you are feeling, there is a choice involved there. You are choosing to feel a certain way about a certain circumstance. And while, of course, we are allowed to choose to feel the way we feel, but are you allowed to behave the way you want? I can be in traffic, and that traffic can make me feel angry, which is fine. Someone else may not be feeling angry in the same traffic. So clearly, each feeling is also a choice that we are actively or subconsciously making. But while I'm feeling angry, can I go around banging into cars? Can I keep honking incessantly? No. But this is something, again, the ego won't let us see. Then we come to mindfulness meditation. Another thing that taught me how we keep the mind trapped. Because either we leave it in the past, where we romanticize, feeling nostalgic about better times, which I do too many times. Or we trap it in the future, where we catastrophize, or we constantly keep delaying what we need to do now, because you'll do it when you get somewhere else, or when something else will happen. But what mindfulness meditation teaches you is that both of those statements are not true, because they don't exist. The past doesn't exist, neither does the future. So all we have is here and now. And that's how you bring the mind to the present. And when you start living in the present, you start living with a certain level of intentionality with your life. You don't keep postponing it for a supposed future. And lastly, there's choice theory reality therapy, which for me was the most empowering knowledge that I could have gifted myself, because it asks a very pertinent question, which is, whose behavior can you control? And if you can answer that question honestly and truthfully, you'll understand that it gives you so much agency over your life and your circumstances. Because what we've been trained to do by the ego and by conditioning, and that's how we've kept our minds imprisoned, is to constantly believe in something called external control psychology, which is my entire life is being controlled by external circumstances. And I'm constantly giving away my power to those circumstances. Case in point, social media. We've all willingly given away our power to an algorithm that decides how we must feel, how we must value ourselves, what is the life that we should pursue, what will make you happy, a like, a comment, a viral video. Everything is external. So you're constantly putting your entire life in the hands of the outside, as opposed to claiming your power, which is all intrinsic. And while I'm still very far away from being able to truly free my mind, all these courses that I have learned and studied and been qualified in have at least brought me closer to understanding how I can free the mind. And going forward, I hope that as a behavioral and transformational coach, I can help others do the same, where they can claim their power back, they can remember who they truly are before the world told them what they should be. And hopefully, they can all become the glitch in the matrix. Thank you.